every teenager wants to replace their diets with junk food like this. But as our typical Indian parents have said and will keep on saying, fast food is a fast way for fast diseases. And this statement, unfortunately, has never been close to the truth. In India, the number of youth having diabetes is the highest when seen among all the countries across the world. Approximately 12% of Indian boys and 8% of Indian girls have been diagnosed with pre-diabetes or diabetes. Approximately 540 million people around the world have diabetes, and this number is projected to rise to 630 million by 2030. Caring for diabetes and managing diabetes is very difficult. One has to constantly prick their fingers, puncture themselves, and draw out blood and put it on the glucometer to measure the glucose levels. And this has to be done sometimes twice or even thrice in a day if you are a type 2 diabetes patient. This could be a very tedious and a painful job. And even modern glucose measurement devices like continuous glucose monitoring do not have the appropriate technology to measure glucose levels non-invasively. Continuous glucose monitors rely on underskin sensors to measure the blood glucose levels. They still are invasive. My father is a diabetic patient, and it aches me to see him every day puncture his finger and draw out blood just to measure his blood glucose levels. And this got me questioning that in this modern day and age where we get our food delivered to our doorstep, why have we not risen above and beyond this archaic technology? And hence I started my own research journey on this non-invasive blood glucose monitoring technology. And dissatisfied with the response and the research that I had, I decided to seek or invent a new method of measuring blood glucose non-invasively. I invested a lot of time and effort, and then I finally came up with a design that has the potential to measure blood glucose non-invasively using the principles of optical polarimetry and photonic crystals. Let's first talk about polarimetry, polarization, and light in general. As we all know that light is an electromagnetic wave, meaning that its propagation vector is perpendicular to the direction of oscillation of electric and magnetic fields. Imagine a dark room with a window where sunshine is coming from. It fills up the room, scatters in every direction, and oscillates in every plane, not just restricted to the X, Y, or Z axes. The light oscillates in all axes in the middle of them, in the middle of these three axes as well. That is typically called as an unpolarized light. Now imagine me standing here with a rope in my hand with the other end fixed on a doorknob, and I'm trying to wriggle it. I have two options. Either I wiggle it up or down or side by side, vertical or horizontal motion. And that is what basically polarized light is, restricting the plane of incident light into a singular plane, either the X or the Y or the Z axis or any axis in the middle. That is called polarized light. But why is polarized light so important to this project? As it turns out, there are some compounds in nature that have the potential to turn the plane of this polarized light, to turn or deviate it from its original course. And these molecules or compounds are called optically active or chiral in nature. And glucose is one of those molecules. Glucose has the ability to turn the angle of plane polarized light to a certain extent. And this certain extent, this specific angle, as we name it, is directly linked to its blood glucose concentration. So in essence, if we shine a light to our skin and measure the deviation of angle from the path that it was originally intended to go, we can essentially calculate the blood glucose level in our body, right? Well, on paper and theoretically it does seem easy, but there are many complications. Because skin is a very complex, dense, multi-layered system that scatters and depolarizes the light that we put on it. And hence, only 1 to 2% of the light that we get back from the skin has that signal, that important rotation signal that we want to capture and then calculate the blood glucose with. How do we avoid this situation then? Well, here is where photonic crystals come in. Photonic crystals are specially designed or engineered materials that have a repeating pattern to them that allows them to very cleverly manipulate the propagation of light. They have the potential to allow specific wavelengths of light to pass through and reject or reflect back the remaining ones in a wide spectra of light. And in essence, these photonic crystals can be used as polarizers. Polarizers are nothing but a jargonous way of saying that certain materials have the potential to polarize the incident light incident unpolarized light and make it into a polarized light, either by orienting them into an S polarization or a P polarization state. And these states are nothing but a way of saying the orientation, either parallel or perpendicular to the plane of incidence. I designed two photonic crystals, one for the S polarizer and one for the P polarizer in my project. And after simulating, I got an extremely promising result. Both the photonic crystals performed extremely well in terms of polarization. The S polarizer, as you can see in the diagram here as well, the blue polarizing line at 598.5 nanometers showed that it is possible to polarize and transmit only S polarized light up to 98.7% and reject or reflect back the remaining of the P polarized light. Similarly, in the second diagram over here, we can see that at same wavelengths, 598.5 nanometers, the P polarizer has the potential to transmit 99.7% of P polarized light and reject the other S polarized light. But why are these two polarization states really important? It turns out that both of these polarizers react slightly differently when the polarizing signal or along with the other depolarizing signal is obtained back from the skin. And using the difference in between these two photonic crystals, we can essentially isolate the isolate the sugar data and then extrapolate it to find out the blood glucose concentration. Imagine a world where we do not have to prick ourselves, where the diabetic patients do not have to measure the blood glucose by pricking their fingers. It could be as easy as wearing a wristband or as easy as sticking a skin patch to their skins and non-invasively measure their blood glucose levels continuously. And that is the future that I strive to look forward to. And while undertaking this research project, I realized that the complexity and the nature of these principles can seem daunting at times. And my realization out of this was that no matter how complex or big the problem might seem at first, it is our responsibility to break that research paper, to break that equation, to break that physics phenomena, to break any concept into its bare-bone fundamentals, and understanding our way from up there and building specialized niche knowledge from the very basics. Thank you for joining me on this journey. The future of photonic crystals and non-invasive biosensing is wide, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you.